Hello, Internet. So, I know it's been a while, and that's kind of one of the perks of being a senior and being in your last semester of college. Things are just crazy, and I haven't had time to do anything but work for like a couple weeks now. So, a lot of things have fallen kind of to the wayside. But in light of the events that happened today, I felt like it was kind of important to make a post. So, earlier this afternoon, there were a couple of explosions that occurred at the finish line of the Boston Marathon that was happening in Boston, Massachusetts. And there have been some fatalities and some people have been injured, and it's just really a horrific thing that happened. And it's really got me thinking about a lot in light of the other things that have happened this year, Sandy Hook and the other just kind of terrible things that happen in the world that we've been hearing about in the news. And I think that a lot of times when the news covers these things, they're always looking to see who was behind it and who was this madman, and they kind of sensationalize the people behind these horrible events. I saw something on Facebook a couple minutes ago, and it got me thinking about this, and I decided that I really wanted to talk about it. So it's a picture of Mr. Fred Rogers, who did Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, who's now dead. He was just this fantastic man who just had it in his heart for helping people and teaching children and really making the world a better place. And there's a really great mental floss video on him that John Green does, and I'll put a link in the bottom so you guys can see. But he was just really a cool person, and there's a lot of kind of fairy tales running around about him, but that video kind of sets it straight. But anyway, there's a quote that's supposedly from him. Now, we all know it's the internet, and I don't know how true this is, but the information in the quote is definitely something that's important, and I think regardless of who said it, it's something that we should think about. So it says, "When I was a boy, I would see scary things in the news, and my mother would say to me, 'Look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping.' To this day, especially in times of disaster, I remember my mother's words, and I am always comforted by realizing that there are still so many helpers, so many caring people in this world." When I read this, it really got me thinking, because I've seen the footage from earlier today of when the explosions happened, and I've read a couple things about it. I don't pretend to be an expert or anything, but, you know, it's kind of one of those things that when something bad happens, you want to know what happened and what was going on, and I've always been really interested in kind of the personal aspect of it and how people deal with it. So one thing I really noticed when I was watching these videos is that among all this chaos and confusion and disruption, there were plenty of people that were running away in terror, but what really surprised me were the people that were running towards where the explosions had happened to help people, because all they wanted to do was to make sure that the people that were involved in it were okay. And I also think about how the Red Cross sent out a message earlier today that said that they had gotten so many blood donations that they were fully stocked. I think that maybe perhaps in times of disaster, instead of focusing on the people who are behind these horrible attacks and what's wrong with them and their life story, why can't we focus on the helpers? Why can't we focus on the people who didn't think about themselves, who only thought about the people that were in trouble and ran to their aid, or, you know, made sacrifices so that they could make sure that the people that were the victims of these horrible instances were doing okay, or that their families were doing all right. I think in times of disaster and tragedy, people tend to band together and support one another, and I think that story alone is so beautiful. I think about the time after 9/11 and how the whole country seemed to come together, and it feels like there's so much tension in the world right now, and there's so many people who don't like other types of people, that it's really nice to see stories of how individuals are helping other individuals. I personally would like to see more stories about the heroes rather than the villains. You know, the people that did good for everyone else and changed people's lives for the better, that, you know, they thought maybe there wasn't anything good that could happen anymore. My heart is with the victims in Boston, and I'd really like to say thank you to all of the people that helped out. Maybe you got thanked, maybe you didn't, but I know somewhere out there, people are really appreciating what you did. And please keep in mind that these disasters are about more than just the villains. We need to look for the helpers. All right, I'll see you later.